Hey everybody, welcome back. So in the last lesson, we read some data into R using the read CSV function from the readr package. And we saw that the data were messy. And specifically, here's what we saw when we viewed it with the glimpse function. We saw that we have year names that are unconventional. We have numeric variables that are showing up as characters. And then we also said that the data are in wide format rather than in long format. And we can see that more clearly when we view the data as a data frame. We can see here that the years are in the columns rather than in the row. Okay, so we want these data to be in long form rather than in wide form. So in order to do that, in order to get the data from wide form to long form, we're going to have to reshape it, and we're going to do that with the pivot longer function from the tidyr package. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Let's just close this out, and then we'll add a new section to our Quarto document, and we can just call this Reshaping Data. And let's add some text here. We'll say we are going to reshape data from wide to long form using pivot longer. Remember, we're putting our function names and our package names in backticks as our writing convention so that they're highlighted when the document's rendered. From tidyr. That's the tidyr package. Okay. And so let's go ahead then and add a code chunk. And then we can label our code chunk. We'll do hash pipe label. And we'll label it, we'll just call it reshape. And again, that's so that if we render the document, there's any problems, we know what code chunk is causing the problem. Okay, and the first thing we want to do in this code chunk is to load the tidyr package, which has the pivot longer function that we want to use. So library tidyr. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then with reshaping the data. We'll put a comment, reshape the data. And then we're going to create a new object called wb_data. And then we'll put an assignment operator. That just means, again, that everything that we're about to do is going to be stored in this new data frame called wb_data. And we will start with the wb_data_messy data frame that we created in the last code chunk. And then we're going to do something to that. And to signify that we're going to do something to that data frame, we're going to use what's called a pipe operator. So we're going to use here the native pipe operator. You may have seen another pipe operator called the regritter pipe operator. That looks like that. That's fine if you want to use that. But in this course, we're going to be using the native pipe operator, which I don't want to say it supersedes the regritter pipe operator because that still works, but you don't have to load the regritter package in order to use it. So it's a little bit more versatile. And then we're going to call our pivot longer function to go ahead and transform this data frame here. Okay? And pivot longer has three parameters. Calls equals, and then we'll go ahead, I'm just going to type them out here and explain them, and then we'll fill in the arguments after I explain them. So calls equals names_2, again, comma, you need to separate the parameters by a comma, and then values_2. Okay, so what do these three parameters do? So calls equals refers to the columns that you want to reshape. Okay, so in our case, we said that we want to put the years 1973 through 2022 in the rows. Okay. Names to refers to the new identifier variable that you're going to create when you take these years and you put them in the rows. So what is the new identifier variable that's going to tell you what that row is? And in our case, that's going to be year. And then values to, which is the last parameter here, that refers to the values associated with these columns that are now going to be in the rows. And in the case of this example, that's female labor force participation rate. If you look over here, it's going to be something like 66.955 or 76.3401 or what have you. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill those in. We'll start with the calls parameter. So we know that the years are in this weird format of essentially the year, a space, some brackets, YR, and then the year again. And we're going to change this later, but for now we're just going to deal with it. The only problem we have is that there's a space in the column name. So that means that we have to be sure to enclose the column name in backticks when we reference it. So we're going to go backtick, and we're going to start with 1973 space, and then let's just put the brackets in there, and then inside of the brackets we know it's YR 1973. All right, and we want to call a range of columns here, so to signify that we're going to put a colon, and then again 2 backticks, and then 2022 space, and then we'll put the brackets there again, the YR 2022. Okay, and that gives us our range of columns. It's going to select all of the columns between 1973 and 2022. Okay, to fill in this argument, so names to equals, I forgot the equal sign here, so we want equals. So names to, this is easy. We said it's just going to be year. I'm going to call that new column with the new identifier variable year, and then the values are female labor force participation rates, and we can just put something like FLFP to stand for female labor force participation. Okay, then the last thing we want to do, of course, is we want to view the data so we can see what happened and if it worked the way we thought it was going to. So we're going to use the glimpse function for that, glimpse wb_data. All right. So let's go ahead, we'll hold our breath, cross our fingers, and run this and see if it works. And there we go, it does. So now we have, instead of this sprawling data frame in wide format, we have a data frame with just 6 columns, country name, country code, series name, series code, year, and female labor force participation rates. Okay. And we can see more clearly if we just want to click on that new data frame, and we can see what it looks like. That is what we expected. We now have the years in the rows, and then here are the values associated with each country for each year. So that's it as far as reshaping the data goes. In the next video, we're going to change this year variable so that it's just a 4-digit year, and we're going to change the female labor force participation variable so that it is numeric rather than in character format like it's in now. See you in the next video.